It is Sunday, the 29th of January 2017. We're basically in the early stages of the Chinese New Year. I, in my own way, celebrated the Chinese New Year yesterday in Chinatown. Had a very nice Szechuan chicken lunch at my favorite Chinese restaurant. And then later attended and documented the initiation of the Lantern Festival. And you know, here we are today, last Sunday of January 2017, engaged in my alternative spiritual practice of protesting against Unitarian Universalist injustices, abuses, and hypocrisy in front of the Unitarian Church of Montreal. And we're looking at the Unitarian Church of Montreal's mission statement. Back in October of 2000, specifically October 9th of 2000, the minister of the Unitarian Church of Montreal at that time, Reverend Ray Drennan, had a very opinionated opinion editorial published in the Gazette, and essentially he was less than politely attacking the fact that the state funeral of former Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Elliott Trudeau was a Roman Catholic religious service. In the mind of fundamentalist atheist Reverend Ray Drennan, the state funeral for Pierre Elliott Trudeau should not have been a Roman Catholic rite. It should have been a purely secular service. Towards the end of his less than polite attack on Pierre Elliott Trudeau's funeral, Reverend Ray Drennan made an assertion to the effect that the rituals of all religions, except his own I presume, are meaningless. He referred to the meaningless rituals of unspecified religions, very broad swipe. What we're looking at right now is the mission statement of the Unitarian Church of Montreal, and I'm about to point out how it is meaningless. The reason it's meaningless is because it's so vague that it can be interpreted in completely opposite ways. Obviously, the Unitarian Church of Montreal wants and expects this mission statement to be interpreted in positive ways, but I'm about to point out how it can be interpreted very negatively. Our spiritual community welcomes. Well, the spiritual community known as the Unitarian Church of Montreal welcomes intolerant and abusive fundamentalist atheists like Reverend Ray Drennan to be their minister. The Unitarian Church of Montreal welcomes other obnoxious anti-religious atheists to be members of the church, and even top-level lay leaders such as the president of the board of the Unitarian Church of Montreal. For instance, Val Bourdon, Frank Green, have both been presidents in the past of the board of the Unitarian Church of Montreal, and both of them can be appropriately described as anti-religious bigots. So much for welcomes. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Oh, well, let's talk about, yeah, okay. The Unitarian Church of Montreal welcomes David Horan. David Horan, to the best of my knowledge, is not an atheist. To the best of my knowledge, David Horan is a theist, but he's got some sort of vague beliefs about God. You know, I don't think he's really thought very seriously about God. David Horan, besides repeatedly insulting me, has physically assaulted me. And quite recently, within you know, the last 6 months or so, in fact in September of 2016, the beginning of the Unitarian Church of Montreal's church year in 2016, David Horan, he's no reverend, that's for sure. The same could be said about some of the actual reverends of the Unitarian Church in America. as far as I'm concerned, if you think about the meaning of the word reverend. But in any case, getting back to David Horn, you know, he has physically assaulted me, and he is welcome at the Unitarian Church of Montreal. Margot Ellis, I believe she was very briefly the president of the Unitarian Church of Montreal, and she has physically assaulted me. She gave me a body check worthy of a female rugby player back in January of 2014. Who else has physically assaulted me? Let's see. Well, Pierre Binet, very early in my protest, physically assaulted me in front of the Unitarian Church of Montreal. I'm trying to remember if he had any position on the board. I think he was involved with the board at some point. Kenneth Howard QC, that is Queen's Counsel lawyer, Kenneth Howard, stole my picket signs, and in the process of stealing my picket signs, he physically assaulted me. So he was welcome here. He left after a while. We're looking at the Stanislaus, I can't remember his last name. It's, you know, some Eastern European, probably Polish last name that I really can't remember and might have difficulty pronouncing, but Stanislaus has erased my chalk slogans that protest against the child sex abuse that occurs within the Unitarian Universalist religious community, and the fact that the Unitarian Universalist Association in Boston hired Stikeman Elliott barristers and solicitors litigation lawyer, Maitre Marc-André Coulombe, to falsely accuse me of the archaic criminal act of blasphemous libel in Bill Cosby-style legal bullying that clearly seeks to conceal from the public the fact that certain Unitarian Universalist ministers are most certainly guilty of such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. So the Unitarian Church of Montreal's current president is Stanislaus here, and he is guilty of erasing the truth in a manner that's worthy of Joseph Stalin. So they welcome him. He's the president of the board, and so we're still in. I mean, I could go on and on with, you know, who the Unitarian Church of Montreal welcomes, nurtures. Well, you know, the same people I've said they welcome. Well, they nurture them too. But you know, they don't just nurture people. They don't just welcome people. They welcome and nurture certain behaviors as well. Indeed, I think they do, to some extent, welcome and nurture the anti-religious intolerance and bigotry I've spoken about, if not the actual assaults and thefts and so on. Inspires. Well, this is interesting. I'm just going to take a little break here because my picket signs got blown down by the wind. So I'm just going to put my picket signs back up, and then we'll come back to the monologue, back to what the spiritual community known as the Unitarian Church of Montreal inspires. And there we go. Alrighty. Let's see, Unitarian Universalist perversion of justice. Well, I suppose to some extent they do inspire perversion of justice. Yes, Church of the Image tarnishing ministers. Yeah, well, we're going to get to that. Inspires. Our spiritual community inspires. Well, what does the Unitarian Church of Montreal inspire? Well, there goes the wind again. Looks like I might have to put away the freestanding picket signs if the wind keeps blowing them down. I'm going to put them back up one more time and see how things go. But I might just have to stow them. We're going to give it another chance, and then we'll get back to what the Unitarian Church of Montreal inspires, what members of the Unitarian Church of Montreal inspire. And it's going to be quite interesting. It's going to come back to Reverend Ray Drennan's Wrong Message, which was the title, most ironically, of his opinionated editorial that trashed the Roman Catholic state funeral of Pierre Elliott Trudeau. So, the opinion editorial that I'm talking about in the year 2000, October 9th of 2000, inspired approximately 50 people to write letters to the editor denouncing Reverend Ray Drennan's intolerance and bigotry and so on. So I don't know what's going on here. We got a group of people showing up at the church that I haven't really seen before. Fairly young people for the most part. And you can take a shot of my picket signs if you want. Got some good ones. So, oh, here's Frank Green, who I was talking about. This is Frank Green, showing his age a bit. So Frank Green, who's very welcome here, as we can see. We can see Stanislaus has his hand patting the back of Frank Green. Frank Green, as I said, is one of those cranky fundamentalist atheists that make so many Unitarian Universalist churches so unwelcoming to God-believing people in general, and perhaps Christians and Muslims in particular. Here comes Harvey Shepherd, who was very friendly with Stanislaus a week or two ago. Hey Harvey, don't forget to write a nice article about this one day. Harvey Shepherd, former religion columnist for the Montreal Gazette, is studiously ignored by picket signs for the whole time that he's been a member of the Unitarian Church of Montreal. So essentially totally complicit in all of the injustices, abuses, and hypocrisies that I'm protesting against here. But getting back to what the spiritual community known as the Unitarian Church of Montreal inspires. It should be noted that the very opinionated opinion editorial that I'm talking about, that Reverend Ray Drennan managed to get published in the Montreal Gazette on October 9th of 2000, was done in the name of the Unitarian Church of Montreal. It was signed Reverend Ray Drennan, minister of the Unitarian Church of Montreal. So it essentially, you know, had the approval. Oh, here comes Reverend Diane Rollert. Okay, so big hug, yeah. So lovey-dovey, yeah. So Grandma.
Morning.
So Reverend Diane Rollert is a grandma. A few other things I could say she is, but I'll be polite and refrain from saying them right now. But yeah, this is one of the things, we're going to take a little interruption here. And one of the things that the Unitarian Church of Montreal has done in comparatively recent times is this little ritual of the minister coming out and leading a little procession into the church. So it looks like Stanislaus might be trying to block my yes, Stanislaus, he's trying to hide the minister, just like Stalin, hiding the truth, hiding facts. You're very well named, Stanislaus. Oh yeah, cute little smile there, Mr. Stanislaus. Yeah, Mr. Stanislaus, the guy who erases chalk slogans that tell the truth about how the Unitarian Universal Association hires Stikeman Elliott barristers and solicitors, litigation lawyer Maitre Marc-André Coulombe to falsely accuse me of the criminal act of blasphemous libel and Bill Cosby-style legal bullying that seeks to cover up and hide the fact that certain Unitarian Universalist ministers are guilty of such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. I hope you're proud of yourself, hider of history, Stanislaus. Who we got here? Oh, looks like John again. Oh yeah, looking good. You're looking good, John. You're looking very good. Yeah.
Good morning.
So we got. You can see it on YouTube.
Oh, you've taken thousands of these things.
Well, I wouldn't say thousands,
Yes.
but probably dozens, maybe a few hundred. Yeah, it's probably a few hundred if you.
Do you have a big album at home?
No, it's on YouTube. It's a video.
All of them?
What?
All of it? All of
Pretty
the
much, yeah, most of them, yeah. So you're getting your little segment of your 15 minutes worth of world fame. So that's John. Don't know his last name, or can't remember it. So yeah, John in the past has tried to steal my picket signs and has assaulted me, if I'm remembering correctly. Another person who's tried to steal my picket signs and more or less assaulted me was Richard Cole, K-O-H-L. He's no longer with us. He actually died within months of trying to steal my picket signs and assaulting me and repeatedly throwing my picket signs into the street. Might have overexerted himself. So anyway, we got Stanislaus here. Okay, the guy in the background there talking to Reverend Rollert, I can't remember his name right now. I think it's something Cursulis possibly. Anyway, he's a former president of the Unitarian Church of Montreal. I don't have a whole lot of dirt on Mr. Cursulis, if I remember his name correctly, other than the fact that he is totally complicit in all of the injustices, abuses, and hypocrisies that I've been protesting against. He was given an opportunity, like every other president of the